Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be diving deep into the minds of some pretty big names in AI. Sundar Pichai, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, you know the names. You guys shared transcripts from their interviews at the New York Times Dealbook Summit, and we're here to kind of extract the most interesting, thought-provoking insights just for you guys. Get ready to explore the AI arms race, the potential of AGI, and all those ethical things that we got to think about.
I think it's really interesting to see how these leaders kind of are grappling with these implications of AI,
Mhm.
beyond all the normal headlines. We'll be
Yeah.
kind of uncovering the nuanced realities behind, their ambitions, their concerns, all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And right off the bat, the competitive tension, I think, is pretty palpable in the AI landscape. Pichai seems particularly sensitive to any suggestion that Google's, lagging behind, especially when those suggestions are coming from Microsoft's CEO, Satya Nadella.
Yeah, he really fiercely defended Google's position,
Yeah.
and he highlighted all the work they're doing with Waymo, their self-driving car project. They've already kind of surpassed 1 million autonomous rides each week. But what's really interesting is his argument. It's not just about, how many rides they're giving. It's the underlying technology, the innovation that sets them apart. He sees this as evidence of their leadership and not, this lag that Nadella is talking about.
Makes you wonder if all this competition is just accelerating AI development at a pace we're not ready for.
Well, and speaking of driving forces, we got to talk about Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA.
Yeah.
They make all those important chips that are actually powering all these AI advancements. Well, he told a story about delivering the world's first AI supercomputer to Elon Musk and OpenAI back in 2012.
Wow, 2012. That feels like ancient history when we're talking about AI. What was his take on that time?
He really recognized it as a turning point. He understood that this was going to change computing forever. This wasn't just about processing being faster. This was about computers learning and adapting like never before.
So let's talk about AGI. That's artificial general intelligence. This sparks a lot of excitement and a lot of fear as well. So Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he predicts that AGI is going to get here sooner than we think. But he also thinks that it might not be as disruptive as we think. He believes we'll adapt and just keep building more and more sophisticated models.
That's a pretty bold statement to make, saying we'll just adapt. That suggests like this seamless integration of AGI into our lives.
Yeah.
But what does that even look like? Will our jobs, our relationships, our sense of self even be redefined?
I think it's a question that forces us to confront what it means to be human, in a world that's being shaped by all these intelligent machines. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost too big to even grasp. Now Pichai takes kind of a more cautious stance, I think, saying we're still a ways off from true AGI. He thinks we need further breakthroughs and that the pace of progress might even slow down. He actually challenges that idea of a scaling wall that some experts predict. He believes that human ingenuity, along with, advancements in algorithms, synthetic data, all that's going to keep driving progress forward.
Yeah. And so it's a real clash of perspectives. And it raises a really crucial question for you guys. Whose vision kind of resonates more with you? This idea that AGI is going to arrive rapidly, almost inevitably, like Altman says, or this more measured, maybe even hopeful perspective that Pichai is offering?
Yeah, interesting. And no matter when AGI gets here, the ethical considerations are just impossible to ignore. All three of these CEOs acknowledge that. They all emphasize the need for responsible development and regulation, especially with things like deepfakes and the potential for misuse.
Yeah, Altman actually even addressed the concerns raised by Jeffrey Hinton. He's an AI pioneer, and he's publicly expressed regret for all of his life's work because of the potential dangers of AI. So this isn't just a theoretical debate.
Yeah.
This is a guy grappling with the weight of what he's created.
Yeah, Hinton's remorse is a pretty stark reminder that decisions made today have consequences that will feel for a long time. So how did Altman respond to this heavy criticism?
Well, he didn't shy away from it. He actually agreed with Hinton that careful consideration is crucial. But he also maintained this kind of optimistic outlook. He still believes that the potential benefits of AI can outweigh the risks if we just prioritize responsible development and deployment.
Right, so they're acknowledging the potential for harm, but remaining optimistic about the positive impacts. That tension runs through every aspect of this discussion, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And speaking of tension, let's talk about the potential for economic disruption. Altman actually predicted a pretty significant shift, saying it'll be more intense but unfold slower than most people anticipate, which is interesting. Intense but slow.
Intense, but slow. It's like a slow-burning fire that could reshape the world. What did he mean by that, and how does it change our understanding of how this might affect us personally?
Well, I think what he's saying is that the changes won't be super abrupt, but their ultimate impact will be really profound. It's not like we're going to wake up one day and all the jobs are gone. It's going to be more gradual. But certain industries, certain job sectors are going to be profoundly impacted. I think we need to start thinking about how those changes might affect us and how we can adapt to a rapidly evolving job market.
Yeah, it's something we all have to think about. Pichai kind of echoes this sentiment. He acknowledges that AI is going to impact employment. He actually mentioned that Google is factoring AI-driven productivity increases into their hiring plans.
Right. And so he sees a future where maybe more people become programmers. They'll use AI tools to create and innovate in ways that we couldn't imagine before. Engineers are going to focus on more high-level tasks, letting AI handle the more mundane stuff. It's like this world where AI augments human capability. We're pushing the boundaries of what we can achieve.
That's an interesting thought. And then you got Bezos. He takes this more philosophical approach. He reminds us that meaning in life doesn't just come from being the best. Even if AI surpasses us in a lot of areas, our relationships, our passions, our ability to connect with each other, that's all going to continue to be sources of purpose and fulfillment.
Right. It's like he's saying, don't just get caught up in the AI arms race. Remember what makes us human, which is really powerful. And it's interesting because he also shared some personal insights into his leadership style. He actually revealed that he's learned to embrace a wider range of emotions, both in his personal life and at work. He recognizes that emotions can be valuable guides and indicators, which I think goes against the traditional image of this purely data-driven CEO.
Yeah, for sure it is. It's a really fascinating glimpse into his evolution as a leader. And it makes you wonder if this is a sign of a broader shift in leadership as we go into this more AI-driven world.
Yeah, it really is. He also talked about how he really prefers those messy meetings where people disagree and offer constructive criticism. It's different from the typical corporate culture of really carefully planned presentations.
He seems to thrive on honest and open debate, even if it gets a little heated sometimes. I think he recognizes that the best ideas come from challenging the status quo. So we've explored the competitive landscape, the potential of AGI, the ethical considerations, the impact on our work, our sense of purpose even. It's a lot to process.
Yeah, we've only just scratched the surface. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll go even further into their visions of the future. We'll uncover Amazon's own large language model called Nova, and we'll explore this complex issue of regulation and control in the age of AI. So stay tuned, back again, and ready to dive deeper into the future of AI with insights from these tech giants.
It's fascinating to see these leaders shaping the future of technology, but also wrestling with the same questions we all are. What does it even mean to be human in a world with AI?
Exactly. One of the things that stood out to me was Bezos announcing Amazon's own large language model, Nova. He was really excited about it. He talked about how Amazon is incorporating AI across 1,000 applications internally.
He compared AI to electricity, calling it a horizontal enabling layer that will eventually touch every aspect of our lives. It's a pretty powerful analogy.
Yeah, it is. Think about how electricity changed everything: communication, transportation, healthcare. Bezos seems to think AI will be just as transformative.
Mind-boggling to think about that scale of change coming. But then there's that question. If AI is everywhere like electricity, what happens to us? Our sense of self?
That's where what Bezos said about finding meaning beyond being the best really matters. He was saying even in today's world, there are always people better than us at certain things. But that doesn't make us less valuable.
Right. Our worth isn't tied to being better than others. Whether they're humans or machines, we find fulfillment in relationships, passions, creativity, the things that make us human.
Exactly. And that leads to a thought-provoking question. If AI becomes more multidisciplinary than us, like Bezos suggested, will we have to rethink what expertise and intelligence even mean?
Interesting. We've always valued specialization. You go to school, you pick your major, you become an expert. But what if AI can do all that? And more. Across multiple fields.
Challenges our whole way of thinking. Maybe in an AI-driven world, the most valuable skills will be the things machines can't do. Creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, connecting with others.
We're at the beginning of a whole new era, not just in technology, but in how we see ourselves.
And with that comes a whole lot of responsibility.
For sure, we can't just let AI happen to us. We have to be part of shaping it, which is why the question of regulation is so important. Pichai said he's generally for a pro-innovation approach, saying we already have lots of regulations, and we have to be careful about stifling progress. But he also said new regulations will be needed, like for the potential harms of deepfakes.
Right, he made a good point about needing specific AI regulations. Like he said,
Mhm.
AI in healthcare is already heavily regulated. We have all those rules for approving new drugs and treatments. So just because AI is involved doesn't mean we throw everything out. It's about adapting.
That makes sense. But how do you regulate something that's changing so fast? By the time you make a rule, the technology might be totally different.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the technology itself. It's about all the social and economic impacts. How do we make sure everyone benefits from AI? And we don't end up with even more inequality.
That goes back to Altman's prediction about economic disruption being intense but slow, like a slow motion tsunami reshaping the world. What are governments doing to get ready for these changes?
Well, some are investing in education and retraining programs. They know the workforce will need different skills in an AI-driven world. There's also talk about needing a better social safety net, maybe even universal basic income, to help people who lose jobs because of automation.
Those are big ideas. It's good to see them being discussed. But it feels like we're just getting started. Let's shift gears for a minute. Talk about how AI is already impacting how we work. Pichai shared a statistic. 25% of the code being written inside Google right now is being written with AI help.
25%? That's a lot.
I know he said humans are still writing the code, but AI is suggesting completions, making things more efficient. Makes you wonder, though, what if AI gets even better at coding? Will we even need human programmers?
That's a big question. Some think AI will replace lots of coding jobs. Others think it'll just change them. Programmers will focus on higher-level tasks and problem solving.
Pichai seems to be in that second group. He sees AI as a tool to make technology more accessible, so more people can be creators, even without coding skills.
It's optimistic, but raises a lot of questions about work and the skills we'll need.
Definitely, and as we keep exploring these implications, there's another issue we can't ignore: copyright and fair use.
Yeah, came up in a few interviews. It's a tough one. AI models are trained on tons of data, text, code, images, music, lots of it copyrighted. So who owns what AI creates? Is it fair use or is it stealing?
That's tricky.
The laws are still changing. There are no easy answers. We're seeing lawsuits against AI companies for copyright infringement, but also arguments for fair use, saying AI is just transforming data like artists and musicians always have.
It could have a huge impact on AI development. If companies are always worried about lawsuits, it could really slow things down.
And it could hurt creativity, too. If artists are afraid their work will be used without permission, they might not share it publicly.
We need to find a balance, protecting creators and encouraging innovation.
It all comes back to control.
Hmm.
Who decides how this all happens? The big tech companies? Or do we as a society have a say?
But if we're not careful, AI could be used to give even more power and money to a few people, instead of helping everyone.
Exactly. It's not enough to just be amazed by AI. We have to deal with the ethical, social, economic sides of it. Make sure it matches our values.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, but we can't ignore it.
How can we make sure AI is developed and used responsibly?
Well, we need to keep having these conversations. Make more people aware of the good and bad of AI. Encourage talking about it everywhere.
Education is key too. We have to give future generations the skills they need to live in an AI-driven world. Critical thinking, ethics, digital literacy.
And we need to hold the developers accountable. We need to know how these systems are built. And push for regulations that focus on safety, fairness, and well-being.
It's complex, no easy solutions, but it's good to see so many people talking about it, from tech leaders to policymakers to everyday people.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this part, it's important to remember that the future of AI is still being written. We all have a part to play.
Let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll pull everything together and see what the key takeaways are for you, our listener. It's amazing how each of these leaders brought such a different perspective to the conversation. As we wrap up our deep dive into AI with Pichai, Altman, and Bezos.
Yeah, it's like they each represent a different piece of the AI puzzle.
Yeah.
You've got Pichai, the pragmatist, focused on the technology and navigating the competition. Then you've got Altman, the visionary, looking ahead to AGI and thinking about what it even means to be human when we're surrounded by these intelligent machines. And then you've got Bezos, the philosopher, reminding us to hold on to our values and find deeper meaning in it all.
And these aren't just conversations happening behind closed doors anymore, right? They're out in the open now, making us all part of this story.
For sure, it's a sign that AI isn't just a tech issue, it's a societal issue. We all have to pay attention and get involved.
I thought it was interesting what Pichai said about AI democratizing access to technology. He talked about AI tools empowering more people to become programmers, even if they don't really know how to code. Imagine anyone being able to build a website or an app, or even design a robot just by describing what they want it to do.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. It could break down all these barriers and unleash a wave of creativity and innovation from people we wouldn't expect. What kind of solutions could we see when people who aren't techies have access to these tools?
It's really exciting to think about the possibilities, but we can't forget about the challenges. The potential for job losses, the ethical concerns around bias and misuse, the need for good regulation. It's like we're in uncharted territory with no map.
Absolutely, and that's why we have to approach this carefully. We have to be aware of the potential consequences, both good and bad, and be ready to adapt as we learn more. We have the power to shape the future.
The biggest takeaway for me is that the future of AI depends on the choices we make. We need to decide what kind of future we want and work together to make it happen.
That takes us back to what Bezos said about remembering what truly matters. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. We have to make sure it enhances our lives, not diminishes them, and that we don't lose what makes us human.
As we finish this deep dive, I'm left feeling both amazed by the potential of AI and responsible for making sure it benefits all of humanity.
It's a journey we're all on together. Stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay human.
This has been The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well informed. Thanks for listening.